Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to some Club 100 racing in the heavyweights for a new year of 2025 at Buckmore Park, where it's been damp and a bit chilly, but not super wet as it was at the start of last year. We're straight back into it with a race. Or I say a race, that'd be weird if we weren't racing. We're straight back into it with heat number 1, where we're starting on the front row of the grid. Paul Williams on our right hand side had pole. We were on second on the anti-pole side. Managed to get quite a good start. They released the green light, showed the green light relatively late, forcing us to go really quite slowly over the line, and it kept everyone much tighter. Typically at Buckmore Park, you see getting a snap of oversteer. That would be something that I had to deal with all this race. Very loose rear end on this go-kart. But anyway, normally at Buckmore Park, the anti-pole side can get really quite disadvantaged with this right-hand curve that comes up towards the start line. If the pole side of the grid is able to time it right, you can get really quite a jump on those to your left-hand side. But this time we were able to sort of get through the melee. Paul goes a bit deep going into hairpin 1, able to get alongside but not able to get the drive going into hairpin number 2, and that leaves a little bit of room open on the in-hand side. Mr. Pike there tries to go up the inside of us, but we're able to hold it around the outside, going through the chicane, coming down the hill, the S's. JV probably not particularly happy to see people going side by side, as we know apparently chicanes and S's are for going single file, but I say no, and I say we'll go two by side. I can't talk today. Can you tell it's been a long week for me? We go, screw it, next lap, 1 lap later, up behind Paul, have a little think about it going into turn 1, but nothing there this time. But I'm able to keep a slightly tighter line going to the second part, able to get out the inside. He sees me and goes a little bit deep, trying to hold it as late as he can on the brakes, and not able to get it slowed down, giving me the inside, able to take that position. Tim Williams nearly getting a good run, and you'll see in a moment just how much of a good run Tim Williams can get coming out of the hairpins. But as we come down the hill, you can see that fluorescent helmet ever looming in the background, and as we come through paddock corner, still having to deal with that kind of snap of oversteer. See a lot of work going on the steering wheel, not ideal. Want to try and sort of keep the wheel as calm as possible, but really having to work it, and then end up allowing. Well, it's probably never allowing. I've got no influence over Tim's car behind, but in my inability to maintain speed through the corner and his ability to maintain speed through the corner, he got a better run down towards Garda than I did and was able to take the position. And then as we come through the hairpins, he just buggers off, doesn't he? Look at that. Bye, Tim. Oh dear. So yeah, that was race number 1. Had to deal with a very oversteery kart and a bit of pressure from behind for the rest of the race, but able to take it home in P2. Middle start for race number 2 on that pole side of the grid, which normally would get a slightly better start. We got some quick boys in this one. We can see Tim, winner of our first heat, on the outside, looking to try and maintain that speed as we go through turns number 1 and 2. I'm sort of pinched to the inside, meaning that I'm not going to get as much a chance to keep the momentum going through hairpin number 1, get stuck on the outside going through hairpin number 2, and then run out of space, run out of road going down towards the S's, have to bail out, because that's not going to end well for me if I try and hold it there. I would have been in that barrier. Tim's able to get back past, fighting side by side with kart on the left hand side, able to keep it as we go down through paddock, but not the most successful of opening laps, as sort of had to bring it over to the right hand side, seeing if we can follow Tim through as he goes up the inside guard with the driver to our left there, but not able to get the same run through, and I get trapped behind, not able to follow through. That driver in front gets a bit of a kick as we go through the right hand before the start finish line, and that kind of meant I had to get out of it for a moment. Gives Kurt Holmes the ability to come up the inside going through turns 1 and 2, but I can tuck it in behind him and follow through going through the exit of hairpin number 1. And a little bit like in the last race, Kurt gets a really good drive coming off hairpin 2, and I'm not sure if that's something I was doing or whether it was a slight difference in qualities of the kart. Maybe he had better low end than I did, but as you can see, a lap or so later, he's able to get a really good drive going through the S's, put it up the inside of Tim Hill as they go through the right-hander coming down the hill, says goodbye to a block, see you later, but makes the position, and you get a warning, so you might as well use the warning for good use rather than just wasting it. And Kurt was able to use it there whilst overtaking another 2 positions in as many corners pretty much for Kurt there. And was that another one going through turn 1? Yeah, it was. Blimey, hell of a run there. I think. Well, you'll see later how much of a good run Kurt had going through the heats today. Interesting. There's more people in the heats this year as we go a bit too quick into hairpin 2. A bit more drivers in the heats. So the back starts and middle starts. Really crucial to try and get as far forward as you can, because if you don't, you're going to be hemorrhaging points to people around you. But there's a long line of drivers that are still quite close together, which means there's still opportunities to pick up a decent amount of places. But as we come up the hill, kind of get left behind and have to try and make it up going through turns 1 and 2. Have pretty good front end on this kart, so able to keep a good amount of speed through there. They're kind of tripping over each other a little bit going through hairpin 1. That gives me the opportunity to get a bit closer again. And then going through hairpin 2, carry too much speed again. You absolute clown. What a silly sausage. That was completely my fault. Nothing to do with the guys in front. They had nowhere else to go because they were following one behind the other. And I just take way too much speed in, get caught out and spin it round like an absolute plank. So there you go. That would be a P12 finish. You know what we were saying about hemorrhaging points if you don't get far enough up in your middle and back starts? Well, yeah, that's what I did then. And that means that it's all to do in heat number 3, starting right towards the back of the grid. So it's not even like I did it on my back start, I did it on my middle start. A little bit of chaos, mini chaos going through the first couple of turns, just a couple of drivers facing the wrong direction and people having to avoid them, and we're not one of them, so that's okay for me. Managed to pin myself towards the outside again, trying to look for something just in case there's some grip out there, but nothing doing. The rain that was on the Saturday had washed all of that grip away, or not that there'd be much rubber out there to begin with. But it does give me a decent drive coming off the corner, so coming down towards the S is able to get up the inside of 2 karts, and then I was determined to be more positive in this race. In the second heat, in addition to my absolute brain fade going through hairpin 2, I'd changed gloves. I put on a newer pair of gloves that actually had worse grip, and that partnered with a bit of a dodgy right wrist. Wasn't the most comfortable of races, so I went back to some old gloves that actually have some better grip, put on plenty of duct tape around the right wrist, and it was feeling better. But I also got a little bit of a talking to from the old man saying you need to be more positive. So there, I was being more positive, trying to have a look at the inside of hairpin 2. Nothing doing this time, wasn't able to get the run out of it, kept tight, meaning that I wasn't able to keep up the speed and couldn't get the run down towards the left-hander of the S's. But can't really have a look going into paddock. Driver in front sort of keeps the kart more in the middle of the track, and somehow gets a better drive off of the corner as well. So answer on a postcard please as to how you're able to do that, compromise your line going in and get a better drive going out. Don't know what happens there, but we would try and stick behind. There's still a good bunch of karts in front, having a look up the inside in front, and that's going to compromise both of their runs through turns 1 and 2, and I'm able to get up the inside into hairpin 1 owing to that. Should have stayed tighter going into hairpin 2. I just leave the door wide open, and that allows the driver in the grey helmet there to get back up the inside. But we'll tuck back in, go down the hill, and then I think the driver in front here, not the driver in front, the driver in front of the driver in front, kind of checked up a little bit going through the right hand of the hill. The driver in front of me didn't keep the same amount of speed as you would expect someone to keep going through there, and I think there's a little bit of rubbing, and that caused him to end up going wide. But in sprint racing, all is fair in love and war, so we get another position from that. Have a look to see if we can get a bit of a better run this time going up towards hairpin 1, turn 1, which definitely is not a hairpin, and we are able to do so. The same fate of having the wiggle from the car in front and slowing us down not affecting me that time, and that's a couple of positions in the last lap or so. Jumping ahead, we're still on the tail of car in front, having a little bit of a nosy, going up the inside and able to get up enough inside to take the position going through turns 1, as we can see that rather lovely Team DT, Team Demon Tweaks on the number plate, who are part of the sponsorship scheme again. So go to Demon Tweaks; they've got lots of good stuff at reasonable prices. Going down the hill, driver in front not able to keep the speed that they probably want to, and it leaves me the ability to go up the inside of paddock and take another position. I had to go a little bit defensive. We go towards Garda. You could see there was a nose of a cart there trying to have a little bit of a sniff to see if they could come back up the inside, but nothing doing, and we've now got a reasonably large gap in front, which over the next few laps able to break down, partly owing to some consistent lap times and also a little bit of squabbling from the karts in front. And you'll see again, going through the first 2 turns, no real true commitment from the driver in front as to whether or not to make a move. Tries to go deep and round the outside, but there's no grip there, ends up running wide, and will take that position off his hands, and we're now tucked in behind Tom Edwards, who we will try and dispatch in the next lap or so, getting right towards the end of this race. As you can see there on the board, this is the final lap of the race, so not going to get any other karts in front unless they have an absolute catastrophe in this last lap, so we need to make it count on Tom. Goes through hairpin 1, doesn't get the best of runs off it, goes wide, and that allows me to throw it up the inside going into the left-hander. A little bit of a jump in the seat to try and make sure we get enough of a drive off, and then they go side by side through the S's, which gives me a little bit of respite. Yes, that one. And we'd get a P6 finish, so 17th or 18th or something like that to 6th, not a bad return, but not as good as Kurt Holmes. He gets a first in the new format of sprints with more drivers, and it puts him on pole. We would end up on the anti-pole side. Adam Nather not getting a particularly great day. I think he had a bit of a problem in one of his heats as well. Someone was talking about force majeure in the paddock, don't know who that was. Some guy, never seen him before, not particularly quick driver either, so yeah. Anyway, first lap of the A final. We've got it all going on in front of us. We've got plenty of karts we have to try and get past, and we're tucked in behind Will Emerson, I think that is at the moment, who was had a good end to last year, if I remember the commentary rightly from the DDMM and Alpha Live guys when they were live streaming the last round. Go back and have a look at that. It was a fun day. If you haven't watched that video already, I'll put a card somewhere on the screen, maybe in the top right corner. You could go and come back to this bit of the video and click on that and go and have a look at another video as well. But we've got Tom Edwards in front of us, going down towards the first corner. No time to waste in this A final. We've got lots of drivers in front of us who are going to be quick, and we can't give them time to try and get away from us, so we take that position off his hand as quickly as we can. And as we come towards hairpin 2, Will goes wide, have a little think about throwing it up the inside, but he's able to maintain speed going around the outside. Goes a little bit wide, but to be fair, I wasn't up alongside enough of him to be too hard done by that, so we'll look to see what we can do. There's a bit of a gap developing in front, so at this point in my mind I was thinking, okay, well let's sort of work for half a lap to see what happens rather than slowing us down even more. And in that next half a lap or so, you can see that Will and I have kind of closed the gap a little bit to the drivers in front, so much so that as we come up towards hairpin 2, Will thinks he's going to have a tasty little send going into the left-hander. I tried to follow him along, but just not able to get enough drive off the corner, owing to the tighter line and a little bit of a bump behind Will, which kind of obviously slows you down a little bit. But driver in front not able to maintain the speed going through the right and the left coming down the hill, and I can slot it up the inside of paddock. Thank you very much. That'll do me. I'll take that position off your hands. Adam Nather in the number 7, finishing 7th in last year's championship behind me. Not that was a gloat or anything, just pointing out that he is the number 7, showing that he finished 7th, hence why I have the number 6, because I finished 6th, and the people that were better than us have lower numbers as well. So saw him there throwing his nose at the inside, and I was kind of hoping that he'd come through and kind of push me along a little bit, because we know that Adam is quick. But I think he got caught up in some nonsense, and the next time I looked over my shoulder, he wasn't there. So yeah, not ideal for trying to get a bit of a push through the field, but we carry on anyway, as we've got Stephen Westwood, I think, now in front. Will's managed to dispatch him, and we will be trying to do the same as soon as we can, able to take a nice tight line going through paddock. Stephen there having a little bit of a tight line going to guard, and maybe he felt like he didn't get the best run through the previous corner, and so just sort of trying to put off me, being the car behind him, from throwing it up the inside. Going down towards turn 1, could have probably used a bit more track, and that compromises him going through the next couple of turns, and as I get alongside, get squeezed a little bit, having turn in, and then hence the hand of what you're doing, and smack on the head. Yeah, I wasn't particularly happy there. I felt I was being driven into, going down into towards hairpin 1. Looking back at it, probably wasn't as egregious as I thought it was, but at the time I didn't take much pleasure in the feeling of that. But anyway, we move on. We're up behind Alex Pritchard now, a lap later or so. He goes a little bit too wide and allows the space up the inside as we put it down there, and managed to take another position off of Alex, who has a little bit of a sniff going down the hill. That would have been a bold move, to say the least. And we now have very little time left in the race. You can see in the top left corner that we're approaching the business end now, and being in 10th position, we need to try and maximise what we can do. We've got Will right in front of us, a bit of a gap in front, and in the last couple of laps, if I want to try and make up that time, I need to get past Will. Will goes too deep going through the first corner, leaves a little bit of space up the inside, and I will take that gladly as we go in towards hairpin 2. I learned from my mistake earlier in the day and keep it tighter, stopping Will from being able to take the place right back, and then knowing that Alex is behind as well. He was definitely going to want to try and capitalise on the sort of tussling between us, so a little bit of a jump in the seat to try and get as much drive as we can off of there, and then a little look over the shoulder, see that they're quite close, so put myself in the middle of the circuit to dissuade a move from there, and that would be the A final, finishing P9th overall. Pace was really quite good in that race, which is frustrating. If it hadn't been for that second heat, maybe could have gotten a better starting position in the final and maybe done even better. But as it is, we didn't, and it's 9th overall in the A final. Not good enough to put us in the top 10 after round 1, but I'm not too worried. I was not in the top 10 after round 1 at the start of last year, and we managed to come home in 6th. So still trying to go better than 6th this year, but there's still plenty of racing to go. Joe Holmes, brother of Kurt, is the current championship leader, owing to the final win, I imagine, or fastest laps or something like that. They have the same amount of points coming out of the first race of the year, but Joe takes it on some kind of tie break. So we go to Glanigors next time to see if we can hop ourselves up the championship ladder and hopefully do a little bit better than we did in heats this time. But until then, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a good one.